people can update information, or when I add some information, it does come back, but there has to be some mediation. And we have to look at technologies where there is mediation possible. That each one of us who are working creatively in any field, when I look at a news item, when I read an article, I have my own comments. And possibly I'm typing it in my, on a notepad at the side. Why should it be the notepad? It probably can be directly on the side, which can be accumulated and used by other people. So a system of annotating tweets, this, that, is something that we are looking at and I think we should inquire into. I was interested in the DFID. I've been battling with this problem of from the cell phone or from Skype, how you can have groups, speak to groups. Having a speaker which does not give feedback to the microphone is a problem that I've been battling. And I would like to know the kind of model that is there. I emphasize this because what is happening is technology is taking us into 1:1 kind of relationship. I have got my thing, I want to make my pile, I'll go and make my query, I'll come back and make the most out of it. That's how technology is taking us. Can we turn this around? And group technologies, group interaction, like the Farmers Club, somebody mentioned Farmers Clubs. Can the Farmers Club own that kind of a system where they interact? And that has a dynamic of its own. So use the technology, but turn it on its base, turn it around, in terms of the investor, also in terms of finance, as well as technology, in terms of groups. Who is the interest? Thank you.
Yeah.
I think they're great examples. I mean, like in the States, I have to say, Kickstarter for one. I mean, what is happening with Hangouts now, and how group communication is actually coming into place, and also group financing. Perfect. Kickstarter, really nice.
Though I am having very limited knowledge, but when we are talking about rural people and when we are talking about innovation, then we'll have to see our model. Is our model is core to the members? Our focus should be core to members. It should be people-centric. It should be need-based. And I think three things comes in. It should be accessible to the poor or beneficiaries. It should be available to. It means resources should be available to the beneficiaries, and it should be affordable too. When we are talking about Indian context, where there is 650,000 villages, when we are talking about, then we'll have to see from the different dynamics which are existing over there, and we can't overlook in terms of synergy what they are carrying in terms of Indian context. Like when we are talking about convergence of ICT and finance, how we can converge them. Because our mandate is to reduce the transaction cost. Like, should we from the definitely they wouldn't overlook mandate of bank. They should have to see the investment dynamics. They should have to see the liability and economy of project. But what I see, like in microfinance also, because I work with microfinance company, SK's microfinance company, and I've seen that sometimes PSL mandate of bank. It's converging with securitization aspect. Like when we are talking about priority sector lending, and when we are talking about securitization, it's overlapping, and we are not fulfilling that mandate. And there is a gap between social and profit motive. We can't overlook the social motives. If we are talking about microfinance, the underlying motives couldn't be overlooked, and profit also couldn't be overlooked. So when we see about the viability of projects, it could be, from the innovator side. So our agenda should be like how we can create an enabling environment where different enabling agencies should come into and they work with different synergy. Like if there is a microfinance council which comes into existence, we can also look into probability of micro venture council, and there could be different delegations, like it could be chaired by bankers and different district committees, like state committees, district committees, village level committees, because we'll have to see it from the trickle down approach. We can't take it from the top down approach. So there are different things, but we'll have to see from different perspectives, because exactly we'll have to work for beneficiaries, and our needs should be attuned to their day-to-day life. That's it. Thank you so much.
just please wait.
Okay.
And then.
I'm going to ask just a question. I've been working a little bit with Techpedia, and I guess it comes back to the database, dynamic databasing, and putting in the content. And the struggle that I see here is, what's the content? What is the innovation? What content do we do to make it really communicate what this is to somebody over a distance? That's one. Which comes to me, what do investors want to see when they go into a database and they pull something up? What's the information they're interested in? And then the other question is, if you had a database with 1 million different innovations, how would you go about searching that? What would be the first kind of criteria you'd want to mark off? And I would like to see this in maybe ways where maybe it's community-based, and maybe we have community that's the innovator instead of, or investor, sorry, community that's the investor instead of, but yeah, well, how would they search? How would they find what they can do and what they want to risk?
I think we can also look back in history. I mean, how do we start to disseminate knowledge? At least, you know, the culture where I'm coming from, they started to do that with libraries. And what would be an innovation, or like, you know, a library for innovations, as well as for solutions, as well as for needs, as well as for how do we actually implement these innovations. And that could actually all be with rich media. That could be a big database where you can just go with your need and actually look by the need and see, you know, what could be the solutions and who could actually help me with implementing it. So, you know, that comes back to maybe your point.
As an investor, what are the big things that you're looking for when you, like, just right off the bat, if you could search by any criteria, locality, if you could search by, I don't know, I guess I don't even know the criteria because I'm not investing in education. But what would you, I'm interested.
I'm also not directly the investor, but you can say. But from my experience, what I had with investors, or at least like the new notion in investors, they are of course looking for return on investment, but they're also looking for impact. And impact is also something, you know, that comes back to what you just said, that we also need something for people. Impact is, it becomes more and more a market value that you can actually use. There's nothing behind that as well. So that's another factor, I think.
Yeah.
I have a...
Yeah, just... you know, sir, when we started discussion, certain examples I have given, you know, that was just deliberate attempt. You know, say, I never meant that these are the only ways of financing innovations. Innovations should be financed in a very innovative ways. And I think this house is sitting just to deliberate that, you know, say, when we are talking of financing innovators, what possible innovations could be there, which stakeholders should be, you know, examining, deliberating, and taking into account. Now, examples of interest rate, viability, and all which I have given it as a typical banker. Okay. Now, if your proposal is coming to me and you are trying to present it as a commercially viable proposal, definitely all my concerns, my questions are going to be with regard to viability and commercial considerations. But friends, we are talking of grassroots innovators. Now, we say, my friend, you know, say hinted that, you know, say for any innovation there should be a need. In case of innovators in India, which we are talking of, the innovation was, you know, say because of need only. He was a poor farmer or a rickshaw puller, and he was toiling like a, you know, like just like an animal. Then he started here, is there any way I can make my life little bit easier? The need was already there. Need has forced that person to become innovators. Now, Professor Gupta's team is identifying them. Now, they are intending to convert those guys into entrepreneurs. The morning session, they gave example of, you know, say, Bill Gates and Steve Jobs and all. You know, one friend, Hasmukh Bhai, but he's a very small innovator, you know. Now, today we are struggling that Hasmukh Bhai can be converted into Bill Gates or Steve Jobs. We are talking of that. Now, do you think that when they are going to reach that scale, without intermediation from the formal system, whether it is angel funder or venture capitalist or commercial bank or development bank, will it be possible? There are stages of intervention. There are layers. Let us not, say, cut the oxygen. I don't like this one and I don't like this one. You only operate within this framework which is to my liking. I think that is not the intention. Let us not, get into the area where only a certain amount of verbose is going to be expended and nothing comes out of it. Well, core issue is that can there be intervention at the stage of platform which we are talking of? Well, if platform is to be developed, whether it is physical or virtual, can that platform be a commercially viable proposition? Who is going to take care of networking of these grassroots innovators, stakeholders, people who are going to put in their money? Now, can that particular platform itself be a commercially viable proposition and which is going to be funded by a commercial person? It could be a banker, it could be a money lender, it could be anybody. Let us try to discuss and deliberate on those possibilities and say draw a conclusion, and then Ahmedabad declaration tomorrow it is going to be finalized. Let us try to put at least one para on that. These are the possibilities exist as far as financing of innovation, whether through ICT or without ICT. So that's all say I wanted to get. Thank you.
Yeah. So maybe you first, then lady here, and then we go the other side. Yeah.
Crowdfunding usually comes into picture when the innovation is already done. Is there a possibility that in the basic stages of innovation also crowdfunding can be possible for the person who is trying to figure out how to do innovation or at the start, like innovative ways of funding? Also, I'm working with a small group of people who are doing something called as an Innovation Incubation Center in Belgaum, Karnataka. And what we did was we not only crowdfunded, we also did crowdsource a lot of people who are working on the innovation part. And we also have the place is being gifted to us by one of the doctors so that we can work on it. So how possible it is that crowdfunding can be at the initial stages of level when a person is innovating or trying to figure out what he is doing. Like idea, in fact, need is just being understood and he is coming up with idea. Is there a possibility of crowdfunding?
Just as an example, in answer to that, we did that last year in Switzerland. My microphone is gone, but I think you can hear me. Where we had investors invest in a methodology, the innovation methodology that we're actually using. We call it the design thinking startup. And we had investors and said, like, okay, you can invest in a team, and then the team goes out and starts to find the idea. I mean, the need, and so on. And we didn't know how it works. I probably got 90,000 Swiss francs from the first crowdfunding round. And now the second round, now that the idea was established, 90% of the initial investors, which were like 60 different ones, actually participated in the next round. So it's definitely possible. There are new ways of doing that, where they just invest in team and methodology, but not in the idea because it's not there yet. And then they say, like, we trust in these people to actually bring up, an idea, and then we go along with it.
So trust is a major factor in this.
And it was, crowdfunding was possible there. To go to a direct investor who would invest in their team, you couldn't find it.
Let me again emphasize that we should focus more on financing of that ICT infrastructure that will help us to bring in more innovations, rather than financing for innovation itself. So that's what the more focus is, and therefore focus is on all issues related to ICT, the infrastructure that needs to be created for promotion of innovations, maybe dissemination of utilities, etc. For the risk and chances that may affect the reliance on people's idea without blending them with modern science. So the idea is more towards that ICT infrastructure and blending of maybe whatever innovation may be there, whether we back it with relevant science and technology or not. So those are the issues in this house, rather than only focusing on innovation itself, which is important in its own aspect. Yeah, please.
I can't really say that I'm referring to what you said then now. I'm actually referring back to you, what you said in the beginning about risk, because there's something we talked a little bit about later on. Most of my questions were answered though, but maybe a recommendation. I don't know if that book is so well known everywhere. I know that in the US very many entrepreneurs read it. It's Peter Sim's Little Bets. To use little bets and paper prototyping, like really simple testing, and pre-releases, like beta releases, to minimize the costs of exploration and development, which I think is exactly the same at grassroots.
Absolutely, I would agree, and it also addresses the point of sustainability early, because you will find out early.
Yeah, exactly.
My name is P.S. Mitra. I am from Tata Steel Research and Development Division. In our company, there are several systems in place. You talk of any IT system, we are those systems are in place, whether it is session management, knowledge management, everything. We have a very strong innovation council where ideas are nurtured, converted into products, etc. But the point which we are seeking the answer is how to capture the ideas at any point in time. For example, the moment we wake up early in the morning till we go to sleep in the night, we start thinking. Whether it is a Riksha Bola or a highly respected person in the society, everybody thinks. Ideas come, ideas move away. Okay. Is there any system by which these thoughts or these ideas can be captured? I can think a lot. I have got a mobile phone, but I am least bothered about typing all the ideas, because that is not going to solve my problems. So something like that, where I can go or ready-madely available, where I can speak whatever I think. That may not be in a very proper fashion or very organized way. It will be unorganized way. But whatever I think about the ideas, I will just speak up and let us capture that idea. This way, vast amount of ideas can be generated, which later on can be filtered and analyzed, and can be converted into a project or something like that.
I think you will wait for the Google glasses, and I'm not really sure if that's a blessing or a curse.
But possibly, maybe a switch on your mobile phone where you record whatever you have to say. And,
why I have said this? Because when people like us who are educated, we have got smartphones, etc., we think like that. Many of us, not everybody. Just think of those poor people sitting in the village. They don't have access to the mobile phones. Even if they have the access to the mobile phones, they will not, just like us, they will not be interested to type something like that. So if they have something like that, that sort of system where they can go and speak, and that can be captured, I think that would be a good idea.
With permission, I'd like to add that at NIF we have a toll-free number where innovators can call and just mention that they have an idea and give their contact numbers, and we then get back to them and collect the details. Number one. Number two, we have an online portal for students, ignitecom.nif.org.in, where the student may upload file, submit his idea, type his idea, or even speak. So it has recording up to 5 minutes. So whatever he wants, he can speak and it gets recorded, and we can then convert it into text, get a printout, and make it. So we have such facility at
I'm talking about just like ATM machine. I have got an ATM card of any bank. I can use any ATM machine, but I can just insert, I can get the money. Whether I'm a member of your HDFC bank or SBI, it doesn't matter. But in your case, people need to know what is the total number.
at least some start is there. We have to start something.
Hello, I'm always when I go to some institute for my new idea, they are talking about what it is not commercialized and it is not possible. But some idea and some requirement of social requirement is essential, just like it is related with nature. As per example, agriculture is related with natural phenomena, and dog mineral that very young used by the dog mineral, it must be developed by some German and American technocrat which can control very yarn diameter by electronic control and similar. And you may say it is not commercialized. So it is wrong. Because that dose bundle is useful for the old age people may use. And but R&D is required in this dose bundle and control the electronics, control and mechanical device at upper part of the hand and lump of the silk. So it is my idea, and some advanced country of German, American, Japanese, Korean can help and develop such type of drop bundle, which is a mechanical and controlled diameter by the electronics. Okay.
I just want to address the issue of large database and what kind of questions you'd like to ask. See, I think we must think in terms of knowledge and information in databases and layers. Yes, there is a large database in the background. It can be a portal, it can have 10,000 lakh records or whatever that is there. But that is like a Google, you do a Google search and then you'll get screwed with the number of hits and the kind of stuff. Now, what do you have in between? You see, we are only used to having the search bar where we'll put the thing. But I'm sure that we can have intermediary blogs or what I call intermediate problem-related platforms. And we should have a very easy blog type kind of interface where I can set up a small group of my own without having to go for any technology, nothing. So that this group of 4 or 5 people can say what are their comments are. I've got to develop a windmill which I want to do irrigation for. Okay, these are the things, this is what I read, this was very good article. And we have to treasure those comments because it is when somebody is processing a document and what they think about it, that makes more sense to the next person who's coming onto that group. And that's what I mean by tweet, that if you are able to say what you have gathered from reading a document in 140 characters, then what you have captured is that that particular bit of information can reach to people, and then we can write an application in the front end to say, okay, let it go to the farm or whatever, if he asks that question, right? So my plea is that we have to mediate information. And by mediate information, I mean people who are small groups of experts, small groups of practitioners coming together and saying, yes, this is of our common interest, this is our problem, let us talk about it, let us hunt for information on this, and let us find common sources of finance, how we can finance this particular site or blog or whatever. So I was talking about intermediate, and that's what I mean by a mix between dynamic and static. Now this one can be more static because I can put my comment and put it as a box here. Somebody will put an arrow and say, but I think this is all.
It is not only comment. I contact Bangalore, I contact so many.
True. I'm not saying that should not be there. I'm just giving you what to go beyond this getting Googled by databases.
This is just to add to what was referred here. As you know, when we have ideas, how do we capture it at that moment? That was one question that you were saying. What I feel is, in the classification of knowledge, see, what we do not know stands the highest. If you classify knowledge, that's one way of classifying, saying that I do not know that some things are there. So even if I get an idea, I do not know that where should I keep it, especially with grassroots level innovators that we are talking about. Probably, I am not sure actually. One way of approaching that could be through educational institutions, maybe through schools and through the teachers and the schools and rural schools, for example. If it reaches the students and the children takes it to their homes, where they're probably the illiterate or uneducated farmers, or we are talking about the rural people, it goes through the students. Actually, if you have some innovations, bring it back. I have a feeling that NIF is one of the agencies who could play a key role in taking this idea capturing through that. Because in other cases we know actually, okay, when we have, okay, there is a place for me to go and approach for a fund for this, for a reward for this. Whereas, as he rightly said, if it's a person in the rural areas, he gets an idea, it finishes, goes. Probably it's a worthy idea of taking it up. And exactly as NIF is doing with many other things. this could be one approach. That was just coming to my thought. That's all, just to add to that.
Myself, Malti Mehta. Basically, I would like to share one experience with UNICEF in Gujarat. And we had a project of child reporters. Like just now he mentioned, with the school children, we involve them in handling the media tools. And my emphasis is on demystifying the technology. I think Professor also told me, he initially said that we have to talk about the infrastructure and we want to use ICT because that is the best possible tool at the moment to reach in the fastest manner. And as he also keeps on suggesting on using all different tools, we are having blog and Twitter and everything. So this idea, the grassroots level, the idea comes and immediately how it can be documented. And then the children from the same village, those children are trained. And then there are platforms, where they come together. Like we had experience that we asked them to even document through this video camera. It's very simple now, they can also operate very easily. And one thing in India, I have always experienced that people immediately accept the new technology. When the pager came, even the sabji wala, even the people poorest to the poor people also, they could afford that. And today, we have seen mobiles, because the mobile companies also know that the people, the mass, they will get a very big market. So they are also coming up with those kind of features with that technology. So we have to utilize the technology. I can also give some examples of using even mobile technology within the professional courses, within the classroom. It's not that necessary that you stop students to bring in the classroom the mobile, but we can definitely use it very innovatively, the same technology. So here the whole idea is to create that infrastructure with the whatever finance we are getting from different sources, whether banker or whether, as K.S. mentioned, that a private person or public. Because when we are sitting in Gujarat, and Gujarat also had lot many experiments in past. When the satellite communication came, that time this is the place where we started with the site, satellite instruction television experiment. Across the country, in 2,400 villages, in those days, 75, 76, I'm talking about, there was no electricity, and even then, the satellite communication and the television sets were made public, which was really innovated for the private viewing, and that was used for the public viewing. Putting those television sets in the Gram Panchayat or in the Dudh Mandali type of places,